Welcome to Absolute Comics, the show right here at twitch.tv/comicstorian that we air every Tuesday at about 5 p.m. Eastern. If you're watching this on the YouTube channel, you might be going, Benny, what the heck is going on? Where's Comics Experiment? Well, let me explain it to you a little bit. Comics Experiment is a part of the Comicstorian Podcast Network, where we bring you shows such as The Conspiracy Cast, now renamed to Mystery Cast, our comic book review show, our comic book TV show review show, and Absolute Comics. These all happen on our Twitch channel, and due to the nature of the quarantine, things have been a bit weird, hence missing Comics Experiment episodes for the last, I'd say, 2 or 3 weeks. So this week, since we can bring you a higher quality show based on the fact that Sal has all the appropriate sound equipment, we decided to bring you Absolute Comics and the discussion of our comics gone until August here in this slot of Comics Experiment. But that also does mean that today's episode of Comics Experiment presents Absolute Comics is brought to you by 2 sponsors. The first of which being Honey, a great browser app that helps you find the best deals on the internet. And I'll be telling you a little bit more about that in the middle of today's episode. And it's also brought to you by G Fuel, where if you use the code comics at checkout, you get 10% off of your order. Once the quarantine is over, you'll most likely be getting your regular-looking Comics Experiments. But hey, I'm Benny. It's still me. We're still doing it. Absolute Comics isn't normal either, so instead of having 2 weird shows, we're just going to do 1 weird show.
Why not? Yeah. I figure that's a good way to... It's economical in these times.
Yeah. Plus, I get more time to play Final Fantasy VII. Sal, have you played Final Fantasy VII?
No, I have not played any Final Fantasy VII, but I should, because I hear it's great. I mean, from you only. But I mean, I did play it back in the day, and it was epic and ridiculous and awesome, and this is the one that everyone's been waiting for, because, like, I guess it was just the gateway for a lot of people to get into Final Fantasy.
For me in particular. You know I'm a humongous Final Fantasy VII fan.
Yep.
I was going to talk about this on Comics Experiment. I was also going to talk about the Scorpion movie that they let me watch early, and I still haven't started, but that's going to be on Thursday. I'll talk about the Thursday show. But Final Fantasy VII for me is super important because it is the gateway to the Final Fantasy franchise for me. But I did a tweet about this, and I have more of a reason why Final Fantasy VII is very near and dear to me. And I wanted to tell that story on Comics Experiment, but since we've merged them, I'll tell you that story.
All right, let's hear it. I'm looking forward to it. This will be nice.
So when I was a kid, Final Fantasy VII is the one that kicked me into the franchise as a whole, and the remake is super important to me for that reason. I came from a lower middle class. My family wasn't horrible. Like, we had money for all the bills, but getting an allowance, not happening.
Not happening.
We had hot dogs 4 days out of the week so that my dad could have his one nice meal for the week, which would be lasagna.
Okay, nice.
We weren't doing horrible, but getting anything extra was kind of hard to do.
Sure.
I, at the age of 14, was mowing lawns to go get stuff because there was no other way to buy stuff. And that year that Final Fantasy VII came out, I had spent all my money to get a PlayStation for 2 games, to play Final Fantasy VII and to play Tomb Raider.
Nice.
So Final Fantasy VII was a local Blockbuster, your favorite store of all time.
Oh yeah, no, who doesn't love Blockbuster? Great store. It's thriving today.
It is. I still have my membership card.
Oh yeah.
And so what happened is, when the game came out in September, I had already spent the money that I earned from mowing lawns, basically on the PlayStation and Tomb Raider. And I was playing Tomb Raider, and I loved it. It's also why Tomb Raider is close to my heart, because I worked my butt off. And in my opinion, that was the first time that I learned the value of $1.
Yeah.
And actually, if I want something, I just work for it.
Right.
Problem solved. But I don't remember to this day why the reason, but where I was, shoveling wasn't a thing. I don't know why. It was Rhode Island. You would assume shoveling people's walks was a thing.
Totally.
I don't know if I just never did it. I don't know what the reason I never did it was, but I never did it.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening was I was begging my family for Final Fantasy VII, and I was renting it every weekend from Blockbuster. So it's up until Christmas, and Christmas came, and my parents gave me all the gifts, and it was socks, underwear, and they got me a video game, a PlayStation game. They got something out of the bargain bin. I don't even remember what it was to this day. They got me something, but it wasn't Final Fantasy VII. Now, at the time, it wasn't 14. I was 12, so I must have been mowing lawns at 12, because I did the math on the summer that the Christmas it came out was the Christmas I did that.
Yeah.
So I guess I was 12 when I did this. But I was literally crying, Sal.
Yeah.
I was crying because I didn't get the thing that I'd worked all year for this one these three things. I only got two of them, and at the end of all of it, I didn't get the one I wanted. I was like, why didn't you do it? What is wrong with you? My mom got so upset with me that she then proceeded to like angrily tell me, stop crying, you're ruining Christmas, your grandmother's bringing it, ruining the surprise.
Oh, damn.
Right. And so to this day, whenever I see Final Fantasy, I see Cloud or I see Vincent or, anything.
Yeah.
I always think of the moment when my grandmother came in and gave me the game. I don't think about the game. I've beaten that game so many times that I don't even remember what happened in Midgar. So I have the stuff happening in this remake. I'm like, did that happen?
Right? Did they add this, or is that a remake?
Exactly. If that's always the memory I have, and my grandmother, she has dementia now. She doesn't remember anybody. She's very not lucid, really. She comes out of it occasionally, but for the most part, she remembers like times when my dad and mom first got married.
Right. Older
So
stuff.
like that's really like the last like solid memory I had of my grandmother was that, and then the times we spent together, but just her coming to the rescue that Christmas. So that's why this is so important to me, this game. So when I started playing it and getting all these memories flooding back and everything, I was getting pretty emotional. Natalie's just called me a big baby, but I was getting pretty emotional because it also kicked me down the path I had with Final Fantasy, where I played all the other ones. I've played multiple. Then I started playing 11. I met Natalie in 11, and then I married her, and then we played 14 together, and I'm playing 14 to this day, and I have connections at Square Enix where they send me the games, and that's just like it's all because Final Fantasy is just so much of my life outside of comic books.
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I like that a lot. That's a really nice story. Yeah, man. It's amazing how like one thing, and if you like, especially if it has weight, you can trace like how it leads you down this path to where you are. Like,
yeah,
just playing that game, and I can imagine. I knew a ton of people who didn't own the game but rented it like every weekend and would play it,
right,
and just try to chip away at it. Particularly, with Final Fantasy or with any PS game, like you could save your progress. So at least you could come back to where you were. As opposed to like an NES game or something where you were just kind of like,
oh yeah, leave it on pause. No one touched the NES.
Right.
I gotta beat this tomorrow.
Yep, exactly. Or like, well, I guess I'll hopefully beat it this weekend. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. My other grandmother had a very similar thing to it. I won't go as deep into this story. But when we were kids, do you remember the game Croc? Croc.
Oh, Croc.
It was like you were a crocodile, and it was PlayStation's answer to like Mario 64.
No, I don't.
Okay.
Like Croc.
Well, I remember like I had a very similar thing with her, but I was begging her directly to get me Croc for not that Christmas. I think it was the next Christmas. Mm-hmm. And she got fed up with me, and she was like, "Don't you ever ask me about that game again one more time, and I'm not buying it for you." And I turned it into a joke where I was like, "Well, I'm sorry, Grandma. I'm sorry. What are you cooking in the Croc pot?" And so every Sunday, because we go to church where I'd see her, I'd always be like, "So what's in the crock pot this week, Grandma?"
So that was your Battletoads.
Yeah, that was my Battletoads.
Nice. I don't even know what the hell Croc is. It's amazing.
It's literally just CROC. It's a platformer game back in the Crash Bandicoot Mario 64 days.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never had a PS1. I played it a lot with my friend who I would spend every day at his house. He had a PS1. We played a lot of Driver. You Are the Wheelman.
That was a great game,
wasn't it? That was GTA before GTA. It was an incredible game. And then we got because we didn't get the memo about GTA. We just kept getting Driver games. That was my GTA. So we got like Driver 2.
You didn't get the memo that this was a thing?
Yeah, no. So like we're just like, this is amazing. You can get any car. You can kill people with your car. You could like, it's just really fun. We got to Driver 3. I'm like, oh my God, it'll never get better than this. Cut to GTA 5 and I'm like, I have an apartment. I'm a serial killer. It's amazing.
I'm a serial killer.
but yeah, man, Driver was our game. A lot of N64 was our system. Like I played a lot of N64. Ocarina of Time, obviously.
Right. I mean, I had the NES and I had the N64 and I had the Super Nintendo, but PlayStation for me was my first big one, just because I bought it myself.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
I lived in an apartment. Well, by the way, guys, the topic of today is our comics are being canceled until August, and we'll tell you about that in a minute.
We'll get there.
We're out of topics, man. So we're just talking.
Yeah.
But like, I lived in an apartment complex. It was old Army housing. and they had no one to mow the general lawns. So I undercut the hell out of them because I was a kid.
Sure.
And I was like, I'll mow the entire place, which was like 5 miles of lawns for like $250. You know.
Right. That's actually kind of shrewd. It's brilliant.
Undercut the landscapers.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, you're fired. Get out. We got this idiot kid who's going to be here for as long as we need him to be. It's going to be great.
So, all right. Well, let's. I think the most of the rest of the topic is going to be totally caught up by this stuff, but let's go ahead and talk about this stuff.
Sure.
Because this is potentially bad for my channel, bad for the industry.
Yep. Yeah.
So I got a couple things I want to talk about. People toting around the concept of comics are dying. Hell, I'm not even going to deny it's great clickbait. I might even throw it in an episode or two.
Why not? Comics are dying. I literally not to put the brakes on, but we did a video where I said is COVID-19 killing the industry or killing local comic book stores? And somebody had a holy hissy fit about it where he was just like, why do you have to engage in the clickbait? Like, why couldn't you have said something positive? Like, you could have tailored that in such a more positive way. And I'm like, I need people to click. It's been 6 years and we don't have 100,000 subscribers, man. That's why.
Look, I'll tell you this straight up. The fact of the matter is
up.
people like negative things over positive things. And as much as I want to be nothing but positive on my channel, there's a reason why, and I won't name their names, certain YouTubers who find that clickbait and hatred and vitriol are going to get views. And they just feed that over and over and over.
Yep.
And I won't deny, sometimes you just, as a YouTuber, as a person in social media, you just got to do the clickbait. And it's always a constant game of, is your clickbait valid or are you making shit up?
And that's the thing.
That's all it is.
Is COVID-19 killing the local comic book store? Yeah, kinda. Like, it wasn't wrong, and it was part of the discussion. And the fact is, the comic book industry has been labeled as dying pretty much like since its inception. Like, I was literally reading an article from 1996 about how it was literally, boy, this DC Marvel crossover, we're hoping it'll get more people in the comic book stores, and hopefully the comic book retailers are ingenuitive enough to be able to know what to do with this extra foot traffic. Like, I was literally reading a Gail Simone tweet about that like yesterday, and that was 20 years ago. Like, yes, the comic book industry is on fire, and it has been smoldering. It's like the comic book industry is Centralia, Pennsylvania. It's just been on fire for decades. And so now it's just like sometimes there's a flare-up where there's more fire than there normally is.
Yeah,
yeah.
I've been doing promotional work in the comic book industry since 2013 when we started Comic Historian. Okay. Yeah. And I mean, regardless of how you want to view my channel, how I do things at my channel, it's promotional work for the comics. I've been told this by the industry, and it's what it comes down to.
Yep.
It's a way to get it out there. And since I've started doing this on a very professional level, as opposed to just being random YouTuber I've heard almost every year, comics are dying, comics are dying, comics are dying. I've heard it so much to New 52, comics are dead, DC's killing them, to all new, all different Marvel. Oh my God, SJWs took over, comics are dying. Like, we've heard it to the DC Rebirth not going as planned. Comics are dead, they're over, Doomsday Clock getting delayed. DC's going under, guys.
Yep.
Like, I've heard this over and over and over and over, to the point where I've always had a backup plan. If comics ever do die, here's what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to hitch your wagon to the trailer of an industry that is perpetually in post-mortem. Like, if everyone's
exactly.
like, it's dying. Well, I gotta hitch my wagon to that cart. Sounds like a great deal. Like,
between the amount of comics is dying stuff that I've heard since doing this, and the amount of hashtag YouTube party over tweets that have gone out, I've had a backup plan since 2014.
You need one. Yeah, because it's like, the YouTube party's over. Google's gonna pull the plug. YouTube is insolvent. Like,
YouTube party's over, then the next month comics are dying, and then the next month YouTube party's over, then the next month comics are dying, then we have like a quiet month, and then PewDiePie drops the N-word.
Right. and somehow that kills the entire medium. We're in a weird place all the time, which is kind of amazing because, like Syndrome says, and everything's weird than nothing is, to paraphrase him a little bit. But like, literally, like, it's like if you hear the comic book industry is dying all the time, you get really kind of numb to it. to the point
Yeah.
where they're like, I think it's really dying this time. I'm like, probably not.
Yeah, no, I don't really think it is either. The thing is this, and this is a tweet I put out. So, okay, let's try to think of a best way to organize this. Otherwise,
Yeah.
this episode's going to be all over the place on the same topic.
Yeah.
So I got irritated with the amount of people that have been hitting me up saying the comic books are dying. That has started from people, starting back to what we said, clickbaiting their YouTube videos.
Right.
With theories and what conspiracy idea. AT&T bought DC, they're going to shut them down.
Yep.
They're going to shut them down. Like,
Like,
where are you getting this?
well, I made it up.
Even if AT&T is unhappy, I've been doing business for a while. Not even just Comic Story. I've done multiple businesses, and I've dealt with a lot of businesses, and I've dealt with a lot of businesses who are doing poorly for a quarter or two.
Yeah.
You know what doesn't happen? You know what doesn't happen when a business does poorly for even a year, Sal? They don't come in and go, you know what? You're not worth the hassle. Get out.
It doesn't. If it does happen, it's very rare. I mean, like, what's
Yeah.
funny? The only industry I can think of that does that is the comic book industry.
Yes.
Like, I was thinking about when Marvel bought the Ultraverse, when bought Malibu, and they were like, okay, we bought it. We've got it. We have to pay like 4 creators. Close it down. Get rid of all of it. I don't care about it. It's done.
Or DC doing Milestone in the same way.
Yeah, like you know what? Milestone's gonna bring such diversity to our bottom line, and we're gonna do so many. Oh, I'm sorry, I have to pay some people. Nah, screw that. Never mind. Close it all down. Shut it all down. How much did you spend on this one thing? Who cares? I don't want to spend extra every month to 1 or 2 people. Like it's insane, and it's probably why the comic book industry is only dabbling in the tens of millions of dollars instead of it actually being like a real media
contrary
empire.
to that. So
Yes.
for years now of doing these shows, Sal and I have said we've never had definitive year sales of digital and physical print.
Nope.
Okay. And this is going to start my tweet today. I love this because people see this. So I guess that's how we got to this point. So I'm tired of people saying comics are dying. Okay.
Right.
We're going to talk about the main topic, which is comic books are being delayed till August in a minute. But we're going to talk about this topic first, then we're going to do our commercial break, then we're going to go into that. I just want people to know comics disappearing till August. We are going to discuss that, and it is a rumor right now. I'm just stating it right now so people aren't listening to the podcast or watching us live, and they're like, why aren't you talking about that?
Yeah, exactly.
It's only a rumor right now, but we have a lot to say about that. But the comics is dying argument. Comics have had problems since the beginning, but I tweeted out, like, I'm tired of people stating comics are dying because it's just annoying. It's irritating. Comics are not dying. That is not what's happening. And I tweeted, Sal, you had the tweet pulled up, but I can't pull up. Can you pull that tweet up again? Because I can't pull that up on the screen.
Yeah, let me see if I can find it. Okay, no, I can't. It's on.
No, I can't.
It's in this chat. Yeah. Here we go. Oh, damn it. I clicked on it and it was like, and what's it called? Google. Wait, which tweet are we looking at?
The main one I said about the points.
Oh,
that I
all
made
right.
That started this whole discussion.
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, here we go.
By the way, guys, if you ever see a tweet that looks thoughtful or well thought out, it's normally to prep for a show.
Right? Here we go.
I don't spend that much time on Twitter.
Is this the one that says, can I clear something up here? Everyone
Yep.
who thinks comics are dying is a moron?
Yes.
1, comics as an industry has always been tiny.
Now, I want to clarify that real quick because somebody sent over numbers that basically states that the comic book industry supposedly makes $1 billion a year.
Right.
Now, that still means comics are tiny because $1 billion a year pales in comparison to the video game industry, the movie industry, the print book industry.
Yeah.
Like tons of industries way outsell that. $1 billion a year to us literally goes, I could retire. But $1 billion a year to an entertainment media is a small amount. It is.
Yeah, Venom made $1 billion, but Sony made 20 movies. Like,
yeah.
2, if anything, comics aren't dying; they're changing.
Right. That is my next statement. Now, they're using data that was given to us as a response to my tweet. They claim they got it from Comic-Con. Sal and I have said for months and years that we have not been able to find this information. Supposedly it's been there this whole time. That's my caveat if this is fake. But according to what we were sent, 2011, the comic book industry made $715 million. 2012, $805 million. 2013, $870 million.
Looks like it's going up.
Yeah, exactly. It goes all the way down to 2018, $1.095 billion made in the comic book industry. That is dying, which also answers one of our Twitch viewers' questions. Rick Caesar, do you think that WB will sell DC to Marvel? No.
No, no, I don't. Nor do I think that that Disney
Even at
is
30% of that, let's say 30% of that goes to DC, that would be a total of about $300 million.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money that is coming out of DC, regardless of it possibly be, and I'm saying possibly because I don't know, a shit show,
Yep.
because it could be as far as like corporate leadership goes. They're not selling that. That makes quite a bit of money. What that says to me is we need to fix things, not sell it.
Right.
Okay? Now, this is where I say comics are changing, because what is going on right now is there's now so first off, Diamond stopped receiving new comic books. DC and Marvel then stopped printing new comic books, okay? Diamond then said they're not going to pay people for their comic books. A problem, 100%. But the problem keeps getting worse. Diamond's latest rumor is they may not start shipping comics again until August.
You know what that sounds like to me, by the way? Because Diamond refusing to pay more than 25% of their bills each week for 6 weeks suggests that they're getting ready to go to the Caymans. Like, it sounds like, well, we're not going to start shipping the books until, when's the plane ticket? Like, when are we going to close the business? When are we going to, like, get out and just close everything? July? Cool. August or September? You know,
right.
Like, this is all very much conjecture. I have no data to back it up. I'm not in any way an expert. I'm just saying, like, from a person who deals with shitty people sometimes, I get the impression from this small company that can't pay its bills that if they're projecting the ability to send books to stores, you know, at a later date than the U.S. government is planning on reopening local governments, it sounds like they are preparing to close.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong. And you know what? If things are going to close, they might have to get some good deals, Sal. And if they got to get some good deals, they should use our sponsor today, Honey. Let me tell you a little bit about that as I open the portal. Honey is a browser extension that allows you to find the best prices in seconds while shopping on Amazon. Hate trying to decide between different highly rated vendors? Or are you feeling misled by low prices but high shipping costs? Honey searches and calculates all prices, including shipping, helping you save as much money as possible. We use it ourselves when buying things for the office or for the set to make sure that we get the best deal. One of the best things about the extension is how easy it is to use and how much easier it makes shopping for frugal people like us here at Comicstorian. Honey has over 100,000 5-star reviews on the Google Chrome store, so you know it's a good product. In fact, Time Magazine even said it's basically free money. So next time you go to shop on Amazon, be sure to use the Honey browser extension to find the best deal and add Honey today for free at joinhoney.com/RNBE. That's joinhoney.com/RNBE to download the extension and start saving money by getting the best deals today. You and I are going surfing in the adverse.
Oh, I hope I catch some money.
Ad portal closes. All right. So that is where we're at right now. Now, let's start with that right now. My tweet originally said, now, I've had everyone argue that comics are dying because they don't want to get print. So let's start there.
Okay.
Looking at this chart right now that was sent to us, once again, supposedly it's from Comic-Con. Sal and I have never been able to find this. I don't know what page that is on.
No, it says it's from digital. It's from both. It actually is, and this is a combination of. Okay, so estimated overall North American market size, including print and digital estimates by Comic-Con and ICV2.com.
Okay.
So gather your own information if you need to check our sources, but these are the sources we're using. It's from Comic-Con, and Comic-Con is getting their numbers from themselves and ICV2.com. That is a combination of digital and physical media together.
So now, first off, this answers one of our questions, Sal.
Yeah.
Why is the comic book industry so dependent upon the local comic book store and print sales?
Yes.
We've said countless times, they should go digital. They should turn it into a prestige format. The better books get printed, that kind of a thing.
Right.
According to this, in 2018, $1.095 billion were made as the industry as a whole. $100 million of that was made on digital sales. That is a shockingly low number.
Yes.
It gets even more interesting when you see that in 2011 it was 25 million on digital sales. In 2012 it was 70. 2013 it was 90, and then it's fluctuated between 90 to 100 since then. It has not increased.
Nope, it's only bounced between itself. It's interesting because if you look at the data from 2011 to 2012, it goes from 25 million to 70 million, which is the biggest jump in any of its data from 2011 to 2019. So,
Right.
And I think that is just the dissemination of Comixology and digital sales to the market. It took them a year to reach around their maximum possible audience. Growing, like, 25 million, respectable number, 70 million, impressive number. And then it looks like from 2012 to 2013, we're jumping about $10 to $20 million per year, which is actually in keeping with the overall physical and digital estimates of books, right? Because if you look from 2011 to 2019, it pretty much jumps up about $100 million every year until it hits $1 billion.
Until it hits $1 billion, and then it just plateaued out at $1 billion.
Yeah,
So the comic book industry as a whole, since about 2014, has made about $1 billion, and $100 million of that is basically coming out of digital sales. Now that's very large numbers, lumping a lot of numbers together.
Yeah,
but that's about where we're at with these. Okay. That's not a dying industry. That was what I said in the follow-up tweet where I said number 4. If a company's going out of business but still has characters like Batman and Spider-Man, you're not going to see them still put out 50 freaking books a month. They're going to put out 10 or 5, or here's where you get your Batman and only your Spider-Man. Like, you will see signs that the comic book industry is dying. Now,
totally.
People have said, but comic book industry is dying implies print sales. And many people, including many individuals in our Twitch chat, say, I refuse to buy digital comics. Now, I agree. But the problem is this. If you want print, that is how you buy it. I mean, I play Magic the Gathering, and I love Magic the Gathering Arena, but nothing beats a physical print card in my hand.
Totally.
You know what I mean? I play mostly the arena games now, but nothing beats a print card. I still like having a print card.
Yep.
And to this day, as much as I love getting my comic books digitally and how much easier that's going to be for me, it doesn't matter. I still own physical copies of Batman Damned, Batman Tom King's Run, Spider-Man. I still have all the Flash issues physically. That's exactly what it is.
Yep.
But the fact is, if the industry were to straight up change, are you, as a comic book fan, are you just going to abandon it? Because if they're not going to ship comics until August,
right,
your option is digital. Now, I feel like digital has not grown because they never promote it.
No,
and I see why now, because 90% of their business is physical.
yeah. Well, I mean, and it's actually interesting to see them lump digital and physical because it's essentially two different businesses. One is a collection of individual businesses who all have the same revenue stream. And the other is one essential digital source. Because, yes, people could rent their books from Marvel Unlimited or from DC Unlimited or DC whatever universe. But the fact is, for the most part, people get their digital books through Comixology/Amazon. And the fact is, it's its own thing. It makes its own money, and it has no crossover with anyone like Diamond or anybody except for themselves. Like, it's just Amazon selling books. Digital books, but books nonetheless. But that's a totally different industry. When you lump them together and you say, they're only $100 million per year is still pretty good, but it doesn't translate to growth. And I think it's just because, like you said, there is no backing behind it. Nobody is promoting this as a medium or as an opportunity. And it's
I think that definitely is helping. Yeah. I also feel like it's people that honestly have their heads in the sand. Like I said, I love my physical books, but if my only way to read the latest issue is to buy a digital book, I'm going to do that.
I've seen I'm not going to say it was an unprecedented amount or even like a very large amount, but a surprising amount of comments. Now take it with a grain of salt because it's a niche of a niche of a niche. It's a group of people who felt emboldened enough to post a YouTube comment, which is its own animal. But I saw an unexpected amount of people who said or who pledged, and like I said, it's a comment, so it doesn't mean that they signed a contract that they'll actually do it, but who said they would rather quit comics altogether than buy digital, which I think is like pretty fucking stupid.
Well, that's just it. You're going to let the entire industry die instead of buying digital. Now, I agree physical's better. I've said that multiple times in the show alone. But there are benefits to physical. And I don't understand why digital doesn't reduce the prices to... you don't technically own your digital. If you do something stupid on Comixology, they could lock you out of your account and you'll lose that shit.
The reality is the reason why Comixology books are the same price as digital book or as physical books is because it was lip service to the retailers who, you know, I don't know what they threatened, honestly. I don't know what hand they had, but like I remember that there was a big argument when Comixology came on the scene that said, like, we're gonna do something if Comixology, because they're gonna, like, the second Comixology has an opportunity, we are out of business. And I'm like, well, you just betrayed kind of like your insolvency, but whatever. But I don't think that's true. Like, I don't think that Comixology is a store killer. But I also know that when that happened, the brick and mortar stores kind of got together and they lobbied the comic book industry. And so now the digital market basically said, like, okay, if you promise to like leave us alone or let us carry on our business, we will not undercut you. And it's just because brick and mortar stores basically threw a fit about the idea that if you undercut our business, literally you will put us all out of business. Like, the reason why Comixology books are $5.99, $4.99, and physicals are the same exact price is just so that if you have the option of getting physical or digital, and you want physical more, there's no benefit to going digital. It's just to placate the other side.
Well, and that's also what's created the problem. Why, and I'll agree with this, if you have a comic book store nearby, why get a digital book when I can have the physical and I own it?
Absolutely. Well, and maybe because I don't have endless space
to fit
all these things.
I've always made.
I have like 17 or 18 long boxes in my office, and that's not even close to even the most like casual fan who's been collecting for 20 years. And it's like, I don't know what they do. And I've seen like creative setups and stuff like that, but even then, like, it's still intrusive.
I've seen people who have storage centers, like storage facilities just for their comics.
Right. Yes, I've seen that too. And I'm like, that seems like kind of not fun. Like, oh, so I'll just get in my car, I'll drive down to the storage unit, I'll move boxes, and then I'll like leaf through and pull out one. Like, there's no way that the people who casually read comics, or even the people who actively read comics but still collect, are the ones who are advocating for physical like that. Because
right,
the people who have like storage units and boxes on boxes, or I've seen rooms, like I have a room dedicated to my long boxes. I got 200 long boxes. They're all on top of each other. Like, there's no way you're reading those books. Because there's no way you can get to them, for God's sake. I mean,
that's what I noticed. Like, I used to collect physical video games. Like, I love the collection, and it got to a point where I had shelves and shelves of video games not being touched, collecting dust, and I couldn't find room for new video games. So it was like, and then I also was like, and who cares about my collection? Like,
yeah, like when you go in there and you look at your collection, you're like, I could really put something useful right here.
Exactly.
Like, the older you get,
all
the more
that shelf space
become.
lost to video games I never touch.
Yeah, and like, is it impressive? Yeah, in a store. You know, like there's this cool shop in like in Western New Jersey that sells like old toys and old video games, and like they have it set up like it's an actual, like it's a Babbage's. You know, I'm picking an old store, like an old Toys R Us, where it's like old toys. It's like you're going through time. And all the dust from 25 years ago, 30 years ago is still there. But like, but when you go in there, it's really impressive. And I love that they exist. But I never leave with anything, because I think about putting it someplace in my house, and I'm like, I don't want my life to look like that store.
I, for the longest time, was doing that, and that was Natalie's argument, up and down, up and down. And I always, it's not gonna load that, it's not gonna load that. And then eventually I had all the retro systems and everything, and it looked like an EB. I was like, damn it.
Yeah, and like, I have an office.
I look like a store.
Like, in my studio, it looks kind of like it's very much like a hodgepodge of a YouTube studio and a comic book store. That's cool. but I don't.
But your studio.
But I don't live here.
Right.
I mean, and there's a lot of people who do like have that life, and I don't begrudge them, and I totally get it. But I have a small space as it is, and I really need to like compartmentalize anyway. And so like at home where I live, and so it's like I want my life to be the things that like are a mesh of my wife and my own loves and needs. Like I have cats, they need space to be considered. I have like she likes to cook, so we need like actual like physical machines that cook for us, like that need to have space. Like, and I can't have them like tripping over X-Men action figures and stuff. Like, I gotta figure out.
So wait a minute, are you bad mouthing my studio space in my basement with all the statues? Is that what you're doing?
No, that's.
Are you subtly attacking me?
No, that's a studio space, and it's also a very minimalist space because you are very selective when it comes to your statues. And when you retire a statue, it goes into the back room, which no one goes into, or that statue is sold, or I assume given to a loved one like me.
I give it to someone on the team, or I sell them. Yeah. No, I don't just hoard them all. That's true.
You don't have like
and upstairs looks like a normal living area. Just the couch, the end table, the junk mail.
You don't have a storage unit full of what are they? Who's that company? I don't know why I'm blanking on their name, but it's
Sideshow.
Sideshow. It's not like you have 100 Sideshow collectibles boxes in a storage unit that you're like, I keep them because I have them, and I don't look at them ever. But I would hate to think that they'd stop making them. Like, you know what I mean? Like that at that point, you're not a collector anymore. You're just holding them for your children to throw away. Like, that's not a thing. Like, but
my cats. I'll never have kids. My cats will throw.
No, but I'm talking about everybody.
Right.
Like where it's like if you're a collector and all you're doing is taking the things that you love and putting them in a storage unit because you don't want to let them go, you're basically just holding on to them until your children throw them out when you die. Because like because your statues, like I can see them from here. I'm literally looking at them all, and like they're tastefully placed, and like they're and they're dusted regularly. Like it's cool. But it appeals to me as a grown up because I'm like, oh, look at how like minimalist and clean and like how selective it is. There's a whole process to it. But even then, like I'm not disparaging collectors because like I get it, and I've seen a lot of like shelfies. People who are like, here, I've only been collecting for 6 months. Look at my shelfie, and it's like, oh, you really created a tasteful, creative space, or you've really created like or you're collecting. You want to get hardcovers or omnibuses, and so you've allocated a space for those things, and that's really cool.
Yeah.
But like once it becomes overwhelming, it's like, as much as you loved physical media, as much as you do love it now and you prefer it, is it practical? And which is the point of Sal's little mini rant about setups. And I don't mean to I don't want to disparage collecting. I don't want to make you feel bad for it. If you do like being surrounded by the thing you love, I totally get that. When I was a kid, when I was a teen, up until I was in my 20s, like my bedroom was this it was just because I only had this much space, and it was just everything I liked. You wake up and it's just you're inundated by like Charlie Chaplin, Spider-Man, Star Wars, like
that's how I was as a kid.
Pictures of your friends, like just and every ticket stub, like just everything.
It was in case I ever woke up with amnesia, so I could be like, oh, I like these things.
Right. Oh, these are the things that I'm literally obsessed with. Like I see a lot of Jay and Silent Bob around here. Like
I finally saw that reboot. It's not bad.
It's fine.
I liked it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, back to the topic. So. Now back to all of this coming together. Comics are being delayed till August, apparently. Supposedly, this is all rumored. They may be fine. That's gonna directly affect us. I'm gonna go with like a full minimalist approach on Comicstorian until comics get back to normal. Sal's gonna have to change the format on the stuff if we're not getting comics till August.
Yeah, we have one show dedicated to new books. So what am I gonna do about that?
Things are gonna change, but this is where things get interesting. Now, everyone likes to state, "Oh, comics are dying." No. I just got another tweet follow-up. I couldn't find Marvel stats, but 39% of IDW's business is direct market and sole distributor, and the sole distributor just collapsed. First off, that's the problem with Diamond being the sole distributor.
Like,
anyway.
This is for me, the headline of this whole thing is all of the publishers, regardless of their parent companies, need to come together and officially give Diamond the heave-ho.
Yeah.
They need to say, okay, It's tangentially related. Like, I pitched this idea where I'm like, Marvel and DC have their heads too far up their asses, where they're never going to do a crossover. So just have IDW be the middleman, because like IDW would love to have a book on the top 10 selling market, and you don't have the big two can have plausible deniability to their parent companies, because we're not publishing a crossover with our direct competitor. IDW is, but maybe that you could take that further and go like, Marvel and DC need to become distributors. Marvel and DC need to distribute their own books. Now, that being said, apparently, and I don't know about the printing, and I don't want to like speak on a subject I don't know too much about, so I don't want to get too much into it. But like, there was a time when Marvel and DC both had the same printer, and it would make sense to me that the entire comic book industry had basically one or two printers. I don't know how that is, and I don't want to get into that, but I'm saying that like the fact that there is a lot of crossover in the mechanics of making comics suggests to me that there should be a lot of crossover in the distribution as well. So Marvel and DC need to be industry leaders and say, the way we were happy to let one family-owned company distribute everything ourselves, our contributors, for 25, 35 years. And we rested on our laurels to let that happen. And now we've realized, now we're in a place where we can't afford to do that anymore. Right. And we need to come up with a strategy. And I don't think it is to prop up another Diamond. I think that the trick is it needs to be from within. Diamond came out of themselves. Like, it's like, I have a problem with CGC because like the comic industry did not create CGC. Someone else came in and was like, I got an idea for how to wreck the comic industry. But or the collector's market. But the comic industry needs to come from within and go like, okay, we need a distributor. We need multiple distributors. We need a failsafe and a failsafe for that failsafe. Because if only $100 million of $1 billion is from direct digital, then we need to support the brick and mortar stores. And if we're gonna do that, then we need to be able to make sure those freaking books get to them. And and what we've learned is that Diamond was not too big to fail. It was too big and failed. And because it sounds like they never kept anything in the business savings accounts. Because they're out of money. Well, which I mean, like in that regard, Diamond was definitely playing with the big dogs, like the airline industry or the train industry, where it's like, oh, we didn't have money month to month. We just expect a government bailout. But Diamond's, unfortunately for us, too small for the government to give a rat's ass about bailing them out, so they're not part of the deal. So they're just going to close unceremoniously. And meanwhile, no one's getting their books, brick and mortar stores are closing, and the comic book industry itself is going to have to scale back their production. This is why I was saying the comic book, because everyone's like, comic industry is dying. First off, like, this is why I said anybody who says it and means the comic book industry is dying is a moron. Well, they're uneducated. If I have an industry, I have a publisher, right? I'm DC Comics, and I can make, let's say, $300 million off of, 25 books a month.
25 books a month, period. Yep. And 30 million of that is coming straight out of digital sales. Let's take their 30%, and that's even lowballing. I think they do a little higher than that, but let's say 30% across the board, 300 million and 30 million. I'm going to find a way to get my 300 million, or at least as close to that as I can get. Like, everyone seems to act like Diamond's over, the only distributor's dead, there is no other way to get comics out there. What do you mean there's no other way to get comics out there? Like,
it's called FedEx. It's called the USPS. It's called shipping.
It's called how they used to do it before Diamond, where they direct shipped them. It's called, we've been to publishers that don't even use Diamond.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the ones that we promoted before in the past, Alterna Comics, what's the name of the other one? Darby Publishing. Some of these guys don't even use Diamond. And while they're not DC Comics, they are succeeding. So you mean to tell me DC Comics with Batman, Superman, Green Lantern, and the Flash, characters that will sell if you put you got Marvel with Spider-Man, you can put him into a STD PSA that he will sell.
Yeah.
You can put a DC character into a PSA and it'll sell. You mean to tell me that if Diamond goes done, That's it.
Well, they don't.
I guess Batman is dead.
I guess
because
we're just
Diamond can't work.
Batman is just a movie character from now on. Like, no, the fact is, and I don't even think the comic book industry itself, like the publishers, I don't think they're thinking that either. But they're not doing anything, and that's the real problem. Is that like,
well, I'll say this because, and here's the corporate hoo-ha about that.
Yeah.
The problem with that is simple. Because DC and Marvel will be fine if they have to shut down for a year, reorganize, come up with their own publishers.
Yep.
Totally. They will 100%. You know who won't be fine? The artists, the writers.
Yeah.
The artists, the writers, the local comic book stores. But you know who will come out at the top of that? Marvel and DC will be fine.
Yep.
They'll direct ship. They'll make their own Diamond. You mean to tell me that Disney bought Marvel Comics to have the rights to characters? It still makes about $400 million a year.
Yep.
And Disney would go, well, we own other publishing houses that make our books, our Disney products, our own comic books, but we're not going to Marvel, you're done.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, only through sheer negligence, because Disney didn't know that Marvel was like one of the top selling comic book publishers in the world. Like, because, you're seeing Disney books being published by IDW and Boom. You're seeing Star Wars and Marvel characters at IDW and Boom. Like, they clearly don't have the faith in Marvel as a book publishing entity to just simply handle everything. And maybe they're right to be that concerned. Maybe when they saw a look behind the curtain, they were like, holy shit, you don't know how to be a book publisher. And we know who does. Like, we know that Boom and IDW do it better.
The problem is they need the distributor. And and there are more distributors than Diamond. Yeah. Disney literally has a line called, I tell you right now, it's called Disney Books.
Right, okay? Disney Books, yeah.
It's literally a publishing house, and they do not go Diamond. I'm sure they're on the Diamond stuff,
sure,
but I guarantee that's not the only place you get Disney books at.
Nope. If Disney, I mean, the fact is, if Scholastic had like a bunch of unsold inventory and they needed to get their books to bookstores or just to Amazon itself, and the one distributor they had was like, oh, we can't do it, then they would just sit with unsold stock in their warehouses? Like, absolutely not. They'd come up with a strategy today. They would have had a strategy already in place, is the reality. The reality is, real publishers, let's go even closer, manga publishers would have had a plan already.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I agree. Does not look good for the comic book industry. That their one distributor shuts down, and they're like, "Well, crap. I guess we don't have books till August."
And they're not doing the other thing. Like, they're not distributing them digitally.
If Diamond really is going to push back till August, the comic industry is going to change, and that's my argument. We're not dying. We're changing. Now, that could be heavily digital. I doubt it. If that's the real numbers for physical versus digital, the comic book industry has been scared of going all digital for a long time. This is probably not going to be what changes that. No. Pector the Inspector says that DC uses Penguin Random House for trades and collections. So they're already in talks with other. So what's basically going to happen is the comic industry is going to change in terms of you're going to need to order your book. Diamond is convenient.
Yes, it's convenient for the publishers. It's not convenient for the retailers, but it is convenient for the publishers because the books.
No, it's even convenient for the retailers.
Well, retailers.
I've been in my account. They go, "Here's Diamond. I can get you anything from here." Right. Now, when I go in there, they're going to have to be like, "Here's DC. They're publishing through this one, and this one. Here's Marvel. It's Disney, this and that." Like, it's going to be a little more challenging.
Oh
for them.
Yeah, and for everybody, like for the brick and mortar stores, because they buy the books through Diamond, and then Diamond orders them through Marvel and DC and everybody else. The comic book publishers are going to have to literally, because Marvel and DC used to distribute, but that doesn't mean they do anymore. And clearly, because of their allowance and forgiveness of Diamond and their shenanigans over the last couple of decades, they're not interested in doing it now. So it's going to be that they're gonna they would rather have an intermediary do it because it means they don't have to create an entire infrastructure within their company. It's money spent, it's new employees, it's new industry for them. They'd have to completely build a distribution center in their own company. So they'd much rather just be like, well, is anybody else distributing? Can we just pay you less than what we would spend to just create our own? Because we don't even know how to distribute books anymore. Like, Marvel and DC don't know how to distribute books themselves. And they'd have to learn it, do it well, pay people, and build it. And it doesn't. And honestly,
they won't do that.
They won't do that.
The whole point of my argument is digital is an option, but both companies. DC is owned by WB, which is owned by AT&T. Marvel is owned by Disney. Like, that's the direct. Both of these companies have access to other distributors.
Yes.
It's just the comic industry is going to change, and it may be an obvious change. It may be 20 books a month from Marvel, and they're only doing 10 of those digital and 10 of those published. It may be you don't even notice the change. Yeah. It might be your local comic book store notices the change because they have to order from 4 different sources. Yeah. There's going to be a change, but it's not dying. And if the comic industry dies down, it'll go lower books, lower sales, it'll come back up.
Yeah.
Comic industry's been around for a very long time.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say. We're just not in a situation where the comic industry isn't new. The comic industry has supposedly been dying for 30 years. The comic industry has been supposedly dying since the 90s crash.
Yeah. The fact is, like, the comic book industry, the only thing that will kill it or will hurt it is a lack of access and a lack of interest. And so far, the comic book industry hasn't done a very good job of trying to maintain either one of those things. Because they're too lazy, because they're afraid, because they don't have the access, because maybe they're in chaos. I've heard a lot of rumors about both companies and how they're handled and how things are kind of up in the air right now for everybody. And so the last thing they need to do is also go to their boss, whom they don't even know is their boss, and say, we need to start distributing differently. Because, they're all trying to manage their own purview.
Yeah.
The fact is, like, the industry needs to get its head out of its ass, and they need to do
that's exactly what the situation is. Pector brings up that Random House or Penguin House as distributes mostly to bookstores, and that's true. But you can make these changes, you can make these assumptions. I mean, maybe the change in the comic book industry is you have to go to bookstores to get your books now. That Walmart is the primary source of DC Comics.
I know that.
I would hate to see that.
I would hate to see that too.
What if that's the change, though? Like, that's my argument. The industry is going to change, and you might not be happy about it, but it's going to change.
It would be great.
I know a lot of people will hate going digital, but we'll still get books.
Yeah.
They're not going to stop making them all.
No. The problem, I mean, like, let's say for the sake of argument, let's play with that a little bit. Walmart is, like, because Walmart has a book section, Walmart suddenly is now part of the distribution line for comics. The retailers will have a hissy fit because they did last time that DC dared to publish a reprint anthology that, like, they shoved under a bunch of Yu-Gi-Oh cards 2 years ago.
I think that was the worst part about that Walmart one. Walmart was like, oh, cool, whatever. We have this weird book. Put it under the Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
And that's the
like,
thing,
they didn't even treat it with any kind of prestige to make DC be like, oh, you treated us right. Yeah, we want to come back.
Yeah, no. I couldn't even find them because I assumed that they were going to be in the magazine book section. And it was like, oh, no. It's in the kitty section over there in the front of the store next to the gum.
The story about Lois Lane dying 10 times.
Oh, yeah, it's in the kids section. But, like, for me, if it's like... If we open it up where, retailers, like comic book retailers and big box market retailers get it, it only helps everybody. And Walmart, I promise you, is not going to create a mini comic book store in all their stores. They're not even going to dedicate a shelf to them. But
that'd be cool if they did, though.
But if they did, if there was a shelf in the book section where they're like, you got to create an entire shelf of monthly books that come out from the top 3, 4, 5 publishers, and only the first 3, because, like, there's not enough room for all the books that are published on a monthly basis. So, like, it's impractical to assume that Walmart would do that. But if Walmart suddenly was able to, and I don't want to just pick Walmart, but like Walmart, Target, Walgreens, all the places that have a CVS, like that have a thing like everywhere, and suddenly comics are everywhere and immediately accessible by everyone, you're only helping the industry. And if you are making just the top 5 sellers available in CVS's, Walmart's, Targets, etc., available in a place of prestige, like just a shelf. It's just a shelf, but they're there. And they're available, right. And they're replaced, and they're not thrown or treated like garbage. But they're placed there. You open the door for new readers, interested readers, a potential audience that never existed, and you're giving them only the options of the top 5 earners. that's fine because it opens the door and unlocks something for them. So now they're like, ooh, I like comics, and it references other things. So then when they research comics, because it's not like anyone is going to buy a comic from a Target and then in a bubble be like, well, this is the only access point I have for comics. No, they're going to YouTube it, they're going to Google it, they're going to check it online, and that'll open up an even grander world for them, and then discover what? Specialty markets. It's not like the fact that toys are sold at Walmarts and Targets have destroyed the specialty toy market. No, they find out that, like, I like action figures. Well, if you really like action figures, then you're going to find out about Mezco toys and Hot Toys and not Diamond.
Lego. Lego's a great example. There's a small selection of Legos at a Walmart.
Yep.
And if you like Lego, oh boy, I got a world to show you.
Yeah, and the specialty market is there for you. And the comic book retail outlet, the brick and mortar stores, it's a specialty market. It's a hobby shop. It's not a Walmart, Walgreens. It's a specialty store that sells one product that only makes $1 billion a year. One product. We're talking thousands
Magic
of people.
cards. I could find Magic cards at Target. And then if I go to my comic store or card shop,
they sell it too.
Is there a world in front of you?
Well, and that's the thing is that, like, your comic book store also sells Magic cards. And in fact, your comic book store got into the Magic card game later than Walmart and Target did. And you can get them both there, and it didn't hurt anybody. In fact, the comic book industry, the comic book store industry, was supported and helped by getting into that market. The market that Walmart and Target were already in.
So I think what we're getting at, though, is, and it irritates me to see people saying that comics are dying, because it's the same thing as somebody who's like, I stopped playing Overwatch years ago. It's dead. No, there's still millions of people playing it, just not you.
You stopped playing it. Now you're playing whatever that other game is.
World of Warcraft is dead. The 6 million people may say otherwise.
Yeah, you know what? Well, you'll know it's dead when Blizzard shuts down the servers.
Right, and I feel like that's what irritates me about comics, because like the version of comics that you read, which is I go to my local comic book store, I have a great chat with my comic book store owner, I pick up my books and I go home and I read them on my couch with some BST anime in the background. That might be dead.
Yeah.
But I hate that statement, because then I get all these comments, people going, "What do you think about the comic industry dying?" It's not. It's changing.
Nope.
If this rumor is true and Diamond does not restart till August, and let's say DC and Marvel decide, you know what, we're gonna wait. We're gonna take 3 months off. I don't think they will, but let's just say it happens.
It's such a boneheaded move, but yes, I could see them doing it because they're doing it right now.
Right. So we'll just say they do it. The comic industry is going to change, but it won't die. Okay, and it might not come back at $1 billion a year. It might come back at $700 million a year and work its way back up.
Yep, but
it will change, and it will live, and it will be around, and it's not going anywhere. Just sadly, you might not be interested in it.
That's the thing, is it might be dead to you.
Right. Because what you enjoyed about it is gone. I go all the way back to my analogy about your favorite restaurant, right? With the Marvel one, when I was like, when they change the whole menu, you just don't go anymore.
Right.
When they give you 1 or 2 objects, you stay at the restaurant. Well, if your offerings have been completely changed, you're not going to go back.
Yeah, we're seeing it right now.
Doesn't mean your favorite restaurant's gone, but it's just not what you remember and what you enjoyed. And I'll be sad. I'm going to 100% be sad if I can't go to Grand Slam Comics down the street and chat with Jason about my favorite books because he had to shut down because the comic industry changed. That will take out a huge portion of my life, but comics won't die. Just what I enjoyed about them will be dead.
Yeah, and that's enough for you.
Right, and that's why I hate I wanted to bring this whole thought piece to a close.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, oh man, you have to go buy all you have to go digital and you got to support whatever they do. No. If you're not on board, you just call it quits and you go, man, that was a fun time for those 60 years that they did it that way.
Right on. Yeah, if you prefer digital, right on. If you prefer physical, fine. But if you're worried, the thing is, if you are one of those sensationalists, or if you're feeling sensational about it, and you're worried about the industry, then figure out what you can do to help it. You know, as opposed to just
know what I did? Because right now you can't go to your local stores to do Friday Night Magic.
Right.
We're doing a Friday Night Magic on the Discord this Friday, so everyone can kind of get together, play some Friday. So slight promotion for my Discord.
Sure.
But I also ordered 2 booster boxes from my local store so they can stay in business because I want them there when I come back.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I don't have a list of books that I want from my local comic book store, but if they were to offer a discount, or you know what I mean, if they were like, oh, they have collections, they have these runs, And it's like, if they could give me a list of the runs and I could like digitally look through what they have, I would buy it. You know, I'd love to support them in some way. And some retailers are more crafty. You know, they're coming up with ideas and they're throwing out all kinds of stuff. So support them. Look it up. More often than not, your comic book store has a Facebook page, which is updated more often than anything else they run. So check out their Facebook pages and see what you can do. And if they don't, message them and be like, what can I do to help you guys?
Yeah. The like I said, sadly, the Diamond might be done until August. I'm hoping.
I hope it kills it.
DC. Huh?
I hope it kills it.
You hope that they're done? I'm hoping that DC and Marvel get their shit together, get another distributor, they figure something else out because they need to.
No, they really
Because what's
do.
going to happen? Like, they get back in bed with Diamond as the only distributor.
Yep.
This is the perfect moment for DC and Marvel to finally start using all these other resources they have.
I guarantee they won't, because that's what they do. Like, you know how you've seen the same names for the last 30 years and they're always doing the same thing that makes you crazy? And the only reason they leave is because, like, they get Me Too'd or they, like, get too old to lift their hand. Like, that's, they're, you know what I mean? Like, it's, the comic book industry needs a swift kick in the ass and a reality check where it's like, no, I'm just so lazy. Like, I don't want to do it though. Like, and even though I recognize that we, Marvel and DC, are not competitors, I still want to treat it like we're competitors.
Right.
And it's like, no, you need to come to the table and come up with a plan. You gotta get them out of here. Diamond, this is so screwy. And you know what's funny? Diamond doesn't give a shit about them. Diamond doesn't care about the comic book industry or about the publishers, about retailers. They're only the reason why they're paying 25% per week is because, like, that's all they can afford, and they're just trying to protect themselves. I don't know what the strategy is, by the way, but I'm not a book publisher. I don't have a great idea for them. Yeah. They should have the ideas though, since that's their effing business. You know, like.
I like this comment here from Noah's Wild. Do you think Disney and WB give a shit about comics industry? They do not, but they give a shit about money.
Yeah. And
that's the fact about it. And this allows WB to have $1 million Joker movies, and this allows Disney to have $2 billion Endgame movies.
Yep.
And regardless of the situation with the comic book industry, it's still profitable.
Yeah.
So to shut down a profitable arm of their business makes no sense.
It makes
what they
no
need
sense.
to do.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah. They would never. I've never heard of companies just shutting down profitable arms unless there was like a legit reason. And
yeah. Well, like, there's one thing I remember where, like, for no good reason, like, Paramount and Viacom split up, and as a result, it screwed up the Star Trek franchise. Like, for no reason.
I've heard about that.
Like, that was so stupid, and it made no one any money. But it's like, that's why probably you don't have your entire businesses run by 98-year-old men. Like, you know, maybe you should have like a committee of people who go like, that sounds like a really boneheaded decision. We're making money right now. Why would we do that? Why would we like cut our nose to spite our face? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, it's kind of like if you ever hear about the SG-1 situation. Miramont or whoever owns them and doesn't know how to profit on them.
I don't get it. Like, the comic book industry is a turnkey operation. They've been doing it for so long. The same people are working it. Everybody knows how to run it. All you got to do, if you own it, just let them do their jobs right. And if they're doing it wrong, you step in and bring in the right people who do. MGM, okay. What about the idea, and I've heard this bandied about, the idea that comics go digital, but if you want a physical copy, you order it through Marvel and DC or anyone else. And they like ship
I mean, honestly, I feel like that would probably be one of the last ditch efforts. That would keep them at least, hey, we're still making money in characters. You'd probably only get $10 a month that way. But like I said, they're not going to just shut down. Like, everyone has this idea, comics are just going to shut down or disappear. They're not. The industry's been around forever.
You're in it right now.
No, I remember what I was saying.
All right, what is it?
Because a part of my argument was that the comic book industry has always been kind of tiny. To which one person responded with, $1 billion isn't tiny. It is a comparison to other entertainment mediums. But the point I wanted to make on that is people have been like, well, comics have been on a decline for 20, 30 years. True. 100% accurate. Comics have been in decline for 20 to 30 years. My argument against that, when I get asked, well, what do you think's happening? Do you think it's because Marvel changed all right? No, none of that. Because if you look at these sales, like real quick, Marvel did all new, all different Marvel. They tried to do the whole SJW push, and they went up in money. So
that's the thing, is that they're not on a decline. Like,
Yeah,
more
they're not on a
people
decline.
are-
Well, they've been on a decline if you look at a spectrum of like 90s to now. But the reason why, and this is what people don't seem to understand, and I've even had chats with those Comicsgate guys about this, the entertainment industry has changed as a whole.
Yeah.
Okay, when I was a kid, my dad would go to work from 7 a.m. till 5 p.m., watch the news from 6 to 7. We eat dinner, we did dishes. He was done at 8, 9 o'clock and went to bed to get up for work again.
Right.
There was no entertainment. There was nothing in the middle. There was nothing to keep him busy. He didn't have time for things. So getting something like a comic book, which is what he did, is how he killed his night because it was relaxing. It was by itself. We are in a day and age where I have nothing but time in my hands, and that was when I was in the Army. Everything you want from your weather to your news, you get instantaneously. You're not waiting around for anything like that. You have every movie at your fingertips. You have movie theaters. You have streaming platforms. You have video games. You have everything on your phone. I could do whatever I want on my phone.
Yep.
You have every form of music readily available to you. We're in an age of entertainment overload.
Yeah.
I tweeted about this out. Quarantine 20 years ago would have been hell. This is just like a giant staycation. I'm catching up on TV shows and video games and comics.
Yeah.
Because we have so much entertainment that you could consume at your fingertips that they are now at a point where they're all competing with each other. I was having a talk with a friend the other day, and the friend said that she would love to spend more time with Persona, which is a game that came out, but she's just so busy in Final Fantasy XIV.
Yeah.
To which I responded, you are aware that Final Fantasy XIV is for your own enjoyment, right? Like, you're stating that you're busy with Final Fantasy XIV, but Final Fantasy XIV is not a job.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it
That's what
feels like
you're
one, but
doing
yes.
You're doing it out of choice. Like, you literally just have to not play it and go do something else. Now, put comic books into that equation.
Right.
Whenever you come to our review show and I go, oh man, I didn't catch up on these particular comic books, you know what I was doing? Not working. I was probably playing Call of Duty.
Right. I was doing one of the other thousands of things that I have an option to do.
Right, and they all cost money, be it a microtransaction, an upfront cost, or whatever.
Yeah.
Be it a monthly sub or whatever. I have to spend almost $60 in monthly streaming subs right now.
Yeah.
Okay, and if I'm on a limited budget, that's coming out of my comic book money.
Right.
If I'm buying the latest Final Fantasy VII remake, the latest Resident Evil 3 remake, and I want to go ahead and buy the Battle Pass for Rainbow Six Siege, all coming out of my comic book money.
Yep.
So while the comic book industry has been in an overall decline since the 90s, it's not because the comic book industry as a whole is shitty. It's because the comic book industry as a whole has a lot more competition for your time and your money.
Yeah. It's not like we're all making more money now than we ever have either. So it's the same amount of money with 100 times more options to spend
Exactly.
it and your time. And it's not like they added more hours in the day or dollars in your pocket. So you're and we've talked about this forever, and I've mentioned this a million times. I remember like when video games, I don't remember it, but I remember it being an argument, and I remember seeing it in like letters pages in comics and in Wizard magazine back in the day, and in comic book retail outlets when I was a comic book store frequenter as a child. The Nintendo Entertainment System, the personal video game system, was the death of comic books, according to everyone in the industry at that time. Because they're like, if they have the option of keeping video games in their home and spending $60 per video game, there's no time and no money for comic books. And the comic book industry not only succeeded, but it produced some of its most seminal works of its age during that time. I've always maintained that the comic book industry thrives in a pinch. I couldn't think of a more severe pinch than right now, competing with literally everything. We are their competition too. Comic books are competing with video games, mobile games, which I don't consider to be video games. Movies.
You have not played the latest Final Fantasy Tactics game on mobile? It's
Right?
incredible.
Like, video games, mobile games, TV shows, cartoons, streaming shows, nostalgia shows.
Let me tell you about Raid Shadow Legends.
Yeah, right. Like, and also then there's the commentary industry. There's there's people who watch shows and you're watching them watch them. You're talking about like
The podcast industry has gotten huge. Remember when we started doing podcasts? Nobody did this shit?
yeah. Remember when podcasts?
We've been doing podcasts so long it wasn't cool.
Yeah. Well, I remember doing I remember pitching a podcast with my friends, not the ones who were on my show, but ones who would have been the ones on my show back when I pitched this. And I was like, dudes, we should do a podcast. We have the equipment. We could do it. And they're like, podcasts? What a flash in the pan. Are you kidding me? What a waste of my time. they each listen to probably 20 different podcasts.
Yep. It was funny because way back in the day on my personal gaming stream, which is twitch.tv/eligible-monster, I tell the stories of me and my buddy Lewis back in the day, and we used to record ourselves on a tape recorder.
Right.
And we just record ourselves talking.
Yep.
And we'd always get back, who's going to listen? No one's just going to listen to two guys talking about video games and comic books.
Nope. I literally had a movie review show. It was a YouTube show that we used to shoot back in 1998 up till 2000. I have them on little VHSs, and they're YouTube shows, but with no audience. And I remember pitching it to public access. I'm like, I guess this is where we go. And then when YouTube came around, I'm like, oh, this is what I was preparing for.
My entire life.
It took me
was
the whole
for this moment.
Yeah, it was this. And then I was like, well, they're outdated now. I guess I got to start it now. But like, we're competing with comics. Comics are competing with everything. Oh yeah, that's just media. Don't forget also like meeting boys or girls or like mowing the lawn or spending time with your family. Like, don't forget about all the things you do as a human being physically outside in the world. Don't forget taking class. Don't forget going to school. Don't forget joining a sport. Like, everything plus everything else. Oh, and it used to be like if you were a huge nerd or a big like fan of certain things as a comic book fan, it's like, well, UPN has 2 Star Trek shows, so those are the shows I watch. You know, like, oh, well, how about CBS All Access, a streaming service?
I mean, back in the day, if you were a superhero fan, it was Smallville, Supernatural, because it's been around forever.
Right. Right, but
and like
then,
you said, the Star Trek shows. And now it's like, all right, I got 7 shows on CW to watch.
Yep.
I got 2 on DC Universe. Netflix just came out the latest Umbrella Academy. Got to go watch that.
Of course. Lock and Key. Don't forget that comic book adaptation.
Right. I mean, the point I'm making is everyone likes to automatically equate the sales from the 90s are down to, well, comics are dying.
Right.
Comics are dying. Comics are constantly changing, and the fact is, they have a lot more competition. And they're not direct competition in terms of like a print media, but they're direct competition for your time and your money. And I do know a lot of people who won't even buy a comic or even a video game until they know they're going to sit down and read it.
Yep.
I'll just buy stuff and then have a stack of it that I never get to. I stopped looking at Steam sales because I have like 700 games that I never will play.
No, and that's the thing is that and the Steam actually that's amazing. The Steam sale should be the thing, and it's probably some forward-thinking comic book retailers probably complained about Comixology earlier in the day because of it, where it's like if it's cheap enough, even if they'll never read it, they'll buy it anyway.
Right? Oh, do you know how many comics I've bought on Comixology through a sale?
Right? That you've just
we have the
read.
entire run of Green Lantern from the 1970s. Well, one day I'll read that.
Maybe if I'm... Oh, wait, I'm trapped in my home right now, and I'm not doing it.
I'm not. You know what book I'm trying to catch up on is the Power Rangers Necessity Evil, and I'm still not reading it. You know what I do right now? At this point, I don't even get out of bed till like 9 o'clock. But
right. Yeah, same here.
When this all started, Sal, like I was like, I'm still waking up at 7.
Yep.
I'm going to go for a run. I'm going to do my usual routine.
Oh, yeah.
Now we're at a point where like I woke up today at like 8:30 and I'm like,
nah.
Just stay here. There's no reason to get out of bed.
Yeah. No, we're in that situation right now where it's like we know we know that the competition is insurmountable because there is a large portion of people we should probably be polling right now who have nothing but time. How are they filling it?
Yeah.
Like,
we should do that. I'm going to put
ideal.
that tweet out, and you put that tweet out, and that'll be our next week's episode. We'll talk about how people are filling their time. Because I'm curious how many people are actually doing it, catching up on comics,
right.
and how many. And be honest with us. Don't all of you be like waiting for physical industry to come back.
Yeah, come on. If you're waiting for physical books to come back, then you should be contacting your local. If you're that much of a physical media martyr, then you should be contacting your comic book store and being like a boots on the ground, virtually kind of like agent, where it's like, what do you need? What can we do? Mail.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you. I'm going to end this podcast with this thought right here. If
Yeah.
you really are I want to support physical. I will only buy physical. I want my local comic book store to stick around.
Yeah.
A lot of those stores are still open, selling back issues.
Yeah.
If you want your store to stick around, you need to support them so they do stick around. Yeah, like I just said, I bought 2 booster boxes of the latest Magic the Gathering from my local card stop.
Yep.
I don't need 2 of them. I'm giving one to Houston just because.
Yeah.
But this will help them stay in business. And if you are that advocate, and there are people like that, and that's perfectly fine. If you like your local comic book store and you don't want to see it go away, hit up your local comic book store, go to their website, get those back issues, tell them, hey, I want anything Flash. Hey, I want a mystery box. A lot of your favorite comic book creators are just literally contacting stores and buying whatever they can to keep them in the business right now.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
that's what we need to do if you don't want to see physical going. Because if this is gonna, if we're gonna be, look, if we end up going till August, and officially DC and Marvel do 100% wait for that,
Right.
100%. They're like, we're waiting till August.
Yeah.
Your comic book store will probably not survive unless you buy stuff from them.
Yep, it
Buy
will.
the latest Magic cards. Buy the latest board games that are still coming out. Go buy back issues. That's what you need to do if you want the physical industry to remain as is.
Yep.
Because if everyone waits till August, you got to keep them open.
Yeah.
It's that
Yeah.
simple.
They can't afford to stay open and pay rent and themselves and eat. They can't just defer. I don't know what else to tell you. So
I mean, I hate to be that guy, but that's what you need to do if you don't want the comic book industry to die.
Well, and the
because if the
problem
comic book
is-
industry waits till August, they're relying on you.
Well, everybody's feeling the pinch,
Yeah.
I want to support my local comic book store, but I'm furloughed. I don't have any money either. What am I supposed to do? And I'm not saying me.
So the
but,
ones of us who are fortunate enough to have an income right now, we need to be supporting it. Like I said, I did it.
Yeah.
I've already spoken with Jason. I told him literally pre-order me anything you can. I'm paying up front so that when you start getting books back in, I'm grabbing them.
Yeah.
That's what you need to do. If we don't want this industry to die, don't whine about it. If you are a fortunate enough person to have an income right now or to have some spare money,
right?
even if it's $20 to your local comic book store, if everyone watching this right now, 351 people put $20 to a comic book store, you're golden.
Yeah. Yeah. But your comic book store should also be reaching out. Your comic book store should be like, hey, here's some strategies. That's why I say, reach out to them and just say, what can I do? How can I help you?
Like I said, that's what I'm doing with my stuff. The
Yep.
stores that I want to keep around.
Yeah.
I want them to stay open. I want them to be here if we have to wait until August to get everything.
My local comic book store was going to have a personal convention to sell off back issues and stuff. Literally, we missed it. It was 2 months ago. It was going to be a month ago. That, and that's just inventory that they were definitely going to sell, all day. That's just sitting in the warehouse.
Our store does that too. I haven't heard about it. I don't know what Jason's going to do about it, but he does a very similar thing for all the local shops. He orchestrates one that I've been meaning to go to for years and I never have, but they've never been in a situation where they were like, we need your business.
Yeah, we need you to do this. Yeah.
Yeah,
no.
we need you to show up, Benny.
Yeah. No, that's where we are. But I hope for the future, and I think that if we'll get the August thing is so stupid. Because it's
it is.
Don't say that then. Just don't say it's August. Just say something else or say nothing.
I don't normally hope that an entire episode of our podcast is incorrect a week later.
Right.
But I'm hoping a week later we have another update and it's in a positive finally.
Right? Exactly.
Because I feel like every week we have an update, and every week the update is shit's getting worse, folks.
It's literally we found out hey, this leg of the industry is bum. What are we gonna do about that?
I feel like every week we end the show and Sal and I go, all right, so next week you want to talk about some of your favorite books? We'll talk about some old storylines.
Yeah.
And every week, I'd say, probably 3 hours before the show, I go, so here's the latest rumor. That's the topic?
Yeah, literally every week there's been some new development that is not good news about the comic book industry.
And we have the same discussion again.
Yeah, we're because every time we get new news, you know who we don't hear from? The effing comic book industry saying, don't worry, we've got this covered. No, you don't.
And the last thing I want to say is comic book industry's dying, comic book industry being postponed to August. Keep in mind, all of your news articles and every YouTuber right now is trying everything under the sun to maintain their own businesses. Okay?
Yeah.
So clickbait is how we do that. And if you I'll be transparent with everyone watching this and everyone on Twitch and everyone on YouTube. We're making like no money right now, and the fact is no one's advertising.
No.
We're in the entertainment industry, and our entire basis of money is getting advertisers. They're not advertising. Like, I don't have Fast and Furious 9 to be promoting. We don't have the latest Black Widow coming out in a month that would be all over my channel right now. No one has this stuff.
No, there's nothing to advertise.
Right. So to fix that, Bleeding Cool's running as many rumors as they can. CBR's running as many rumors as they can.
Yep.
Your favorite comic book YouTubers that talk about the industry in that light are running every clickbait title they can. And Sal and I are having an entire podcast discussing it.
And we're here to make sense.
Hey, we're not above it. We're the pot calling the kettle black here.
Oh
man.
no, I'm not. But just take it with a grain of salt. That's why with our discussions, number one, it's not an article that you can just write a lie and then just leave it. For us, it's like, well, here's what we read and here's how we feel, and it's probably not true. Like that's at least the conversation gets there and gets an opportunity to get some kind of measure of understanding out of there.
Right.
At the very least, you get to hear some talk about something your wife doesn't want to hear, or
Yeah. All right, so anyway, guys, thank you for joining us for today's Absolute Comics. Well, Comics Experiment presents Absolute Comics. This may be what we do until things can get back to normal and the crew can get back in the studio and we can do a proper Comics Experiment. If you are new to the channel, YouTube on the YouTube side or on the Twitch side, Comics Experiment is still being aired every Thursday. The quality's not where I like it, so it's a Twitch and Patreon exclusive show right now. Once the quality can get back to where we want it, and the reason is Andy and Dan just don't have setups at home. Sal, fortunately, has his own entire setup. I have my own entire setup, and that's how we're able to do this. But my staff is all at home at the moment, and they don't have that setup. So the shows are being aired live on twitch.tv/comicstorian every Thursday, but this will probably be our Saturday show until things can get back to normal, and then it'll move back to its channel. I'll link you the podcast channel in the section down below. You can watch old episodes of me and Sal back when we talked about comics. It was
a fun time.
Ago. It was a fun time. We'd love to have you around. And don't forget, today's sponsors are Honey. I told you a little bit about that in today's episode. Support us by clicking that link down below. And also, don't forget, we are also supported by J Fuel over here. 10% off your order if you use the code COMICS at checkout. You could also support us by subbing here at Twitch and on Patreon. And just like everyone else, we're trying to keep our businesses afloat. If you don't want to see our shows end, support us if you can. If you can. I am specifying that.
Yeah, don't overextend.
Yeah. So, all right, guys. Thank you so much. Ending the show right here.